The global number of COVID-19 cases has exceeded 11 million, with the death toll exceeding 524,000. This comes as the United States has reported another record daily infections with over 57,600 new cases as the tally nears 2.8 million. Brazil has reported nearly 1,300 deaths overnight as the countrywide death toll surpassed 63,000 with 1.5 million infections. More details in this report.
Many hard-hit countries are easing lockdowns put in place to slow the spread of the coronavirus. But the U.S. is experiencing a resurgence in infections, forcing authorities to partially reinstate lockdowns. Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Alaska have reported record increases in COVID-19 cases. Meanwhile, Mexico has reported 654 more deaths, raising the country's total to nearly 30,000. Cuba has stirred to life after more than 3 months of lockdown, but the president has advised people to remain cautious.
Discipline is needed. We must keep it under control. The easing must be rigorous and gradual to avoid complications. We have the capacity to detect an outbreak in time and to be able to work intensely on it before it becomes complicated and a major event.
South Africa has reported its biggest increase in coronavirus infections in a day with 9,063 new cases, bringing the total to over 117,000. In the UK, pubs, restaurants, hairdressers, and cinemas are opening their doors for the first time in 3 months after a major relaxation of restrictions. The World Health Organization has urged countries hit by serious outbreaks to wake up to the realities on the ground and to take control of the pandemic. The UN body said it will soon get results from clinical trials of potential drugs that might be effective in treating COVID-19 patients.
The group reviewed data from the Solidarity trial and agreed on the need for more trials to test different classes of therapeutics at different stages of the disease. Nearly 5,500 patients in 39 countries have so far been recruited into the Solidarity trial. We expect interim results within the next 2 weeks.
While South Korea has reported 63 new coronavirus cases, continuing a weeks-long resurgence as new clusters pop up in various parts of the country.
In Pakistan, nearly 11,500 people have recovered from the new coronavirus in the past day, raising the tally to over 125,000. The Health Ministry said nearly 3,400 positive cases were reported overnight, bringing the total to over 225,000. The ministry said the countrywide death toll has surpassed 4,600 with 68 more fatalities in the past 24 hours. The ministry said more than 95,000 cases are active in the country. It said the province of Punjab reported the most new infections with more than 1,800 cases. The Sindh province reported nearly 1,500 infections, while the capital city of Islamabad registered 97 new cases. U.S. envoy Zalmay Khalilzad says he expects that the Taliban and the Kabul administration will overcome final hurdles on the path to intra-Afghan negotiations. In a series of tweets, Khalilzad said the Taliban recognize all Afghans will have to make compromises to draw investments in Afghanistan's future. Khalilzad said there is a possibility of co-investing in the Afghan projects to consolidate peace and unlock regional prosperity. He said the potential to amplify investment impacts in Afghanistan with like-minded partners is real. The envoy said the US and Taliban agree that developing plans in support of peace can never start too early. Khalilzad has completed his tour of the region, where he met top officials of Qatar, Pakistan, and 5 Central Asian countries. The U.S. has sent 2 aircraft carriers in the disputed South China Sea amid the ongoing Chinese military exercises in the controversial waters. In a statement, the U.S. Navy said USS Nimitz and USS Ronald Reagan were carrying out operations to support a free and open Indo-Pacific. This comes after Beijing announced 5 days of drills last week, starting from July 1st near the Paracel Islands, which are claimed by both Vietnam and China. Yesterday, Beijing and Washington accused each other of stoking tensions in the strategic waterway amid strained bilateral relations. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo voiced support for the Philippines and Vietnam over highly provocative drills. Pompeo said Washington opposed Beijing's unlawful claims on the oil and gas-rich waters. Beijing claims 90% of the energy-rich waters, but Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines, Taiwan and Vietnam also lay partial claims. Now, North Korea has ruled out dialogue with the U.S. ahead of an American envoy's visit to South Korea. Pyongyang's Vice Foreign Minister Choi Son-hui accused Washington of using the talks as a political tool, saying North Korea will not change its policy. In a statement, Choi said the negotiations will not work out between Washington and Pyongyang. Meanwhile, U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Stephen Biegun has set to visit South Korea next week to discuss stalled talks with North Korea. Earlier, South Korea urged U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korea Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un to meet before the U.S. elections in November. Before the recent escalations in the Korean peninsula, Trump and Kim held 3 inconclusive summits between 2018 and 19. Nigeria says it has killed scores of Boko Haram militants in multiple airstrikes in the Sambisa forest in northeastern state of Borno. In a statement, the military said the troops also destroyed the militants' meeting venue at Maniakari on the fringes of Sambisa forest. The statement said the operation was executed following a series of intelligence. It said the latest mission is the continuation of the air interdiction missions being conducted to unhinge the leadership of the terror group. The Sambisa forest is the largest training camp of the Boko Haram group in Nigeria. Since 2009, Boko Haram has been attacking northeastern Nigeria, extending its attacks to countries in the Lake Chad basin. Over to Mali, where 7 government soldiers have been killed in an ambush in the central Mopti region. In a statement, the Defense Ministry spokesman said the attack on an army patrol took place on the outskirts of Guari village. The official said that another 2 soldiers were wounded and 3 missing. On Wednesday, suspected militants had raided the villages of Goari, Jindo and Fanga Duogo. The UN envoy in Mali, Mohamed Saleh Anadif, condemned the attacks. He said the attacks were aggravated the security and humanitarian crisis. In Mexico, the military has killed 12 alleged drug cartel members in the violence-stricken border city of Nuevo Laredo. Tamaulipas state security officials said gunmen wearing military-style uniforms attacked soldiers in a neighborhood near the airport. Officials said soldiers recovered 10 semi-automatic and sniper rifles from the scene. Officials found another body later in the day in relation to the early morning confrontation with the alleged members of the cartel. The military has not said whether any of its soldiers were injured or killed in the clash. Homicides in Mexico hit a new record last year and continue to trend higher in this year as well. Iran says it will retaliate against any country that conducts cyber attacks on its nuclear sites. The remarks come after a fire incident at the country's Natanz plant, which some local officials believe could have been caused by cyber sabotage. In an interview, the head of civilian defense, Ghulam Reza Jalali, said the cause of the incident at the nuclear site had been determined. But he said due to security considerations, it would be announced at a convenient time later. Jalali said responding to cyber attacks is part of the country's defense might. Earlier, 2 Iranian officials said Israel could have been behind the cyber attack on the Natanz nuclear site. The Natanz uranium enrichment site is one of several Iranian facilities monitored by the inspectors of the IAEA. Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar has visited Libya to boost cooperation between the 2 countries. Chief of General Staff General Yasser Güler also accompanied the minister. The 2 Turkish officials visited the Defense Security Cooperation and Training Assistance Advisory Command. Earlier, President Tayyip Erdogan said Turkey will continue to hold determined talks with the UN-backed government of Libya. Meanwhile, Russia has decided to reopen its embassy in Libya, with its head temporarily based in neighboring Tunisia. Speaking at a meeting with the Speaker of Libya's Eastern Parliament, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov called for a cessation of hostilities in Libya. He said Moscow's embassy in Libya will be headed by Charge d'Affaires Jamshed Boltaev. More news coming up after a short break. Stay tuned. Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed a decree to implement the constitutional reform package. This comes after 78% of votes casted in favor of the constitutional amendments in this week's referendum. The Kremlin said the amendments have become effective from today. Earlier, Russia's Central Election Commission certified the results of the referendum held between June 25th and July 1st on 206 constitutional amendments. The reforms have paved way for Putin to stay in power until 2036, as he won the right to run for presidential office for 2 more terms. U.S. President Donald Trump has lashed out at the recent racial equality demonstrations at the July 4th rally at Mount Rushmore in South Dakota. President Trump said the angry mobs were running a merciless campaign to wipe out American history. Trump said the protesters who tore down statues of Confederate leaders were defaming American heroes and indoctrinating young children. He said his administration will not abolish the police or the Second Amendment, saying left wing was trying to overthrow the American Revolution. Trump said the radical view of American history was getting rid of perspective and disfiguring American history beyond recognition.
Make no mistake, this left-wing cultural revolution is designed to overthrow the American Revolution. In so doing, they would destroy the very civilization that rescued billions from poverty, disease, violence, and hunger, and that lifted humanity to new heights of achievement, discovery, and progress. To make this possible, they are determined to tear down every statue, symbol, and memory of our national heritage.
Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed says the killing of an activist and subsequent violence represents coordinated attempts to destabilize the country. Abiy's remarks came after violent protests over the killing of singer Hakalu Hundessa left nearly 100 dead this week. Speaking at a meeting with state officials, Abiy promised to hold to account those directly involved as well as those that are pulling the strings. Hundessa, a member of the Oromo ethnic group, was shot dead in the capital Addis Ababa on Monday. Protests immediately broke out in the city and the surrounding Oromia region. On Thursday, officials said 97 people have been killed by security forces in inter-ethnic clashes. 2 suicides in Lebanon have sparked a new wave of criticism over the government's mishandling of the economic crisis. Dozens of people laid flowers on a main Beirut street where a man killed himself. A local official said an elderly man shot himself in the head in the capital's busy Hamra district. A relative of the man blamed the country's rulers for the hardship that led to his death. In a second suicide, a van driver apparently hung himself near the southern city of Sidon. A Hamra resident said people are hungry and miserable as the government took away their dreams and money. Soaring prices and job losses have fueled despair, and some aid groups have warned the risk of mass hunger. The Australian convicted of the 2019 Christchurch mosque shootings will be sentenced during a hearing on August 24. Brenton Tarrant pleaded guilty to 51 charges of murder, 40 charges of attempted murder, and 1 charge of committing a terrorist attack. High Court Justice Cameron Mander said the hearing is estimated to last 3 days, but it will take long if it is necessary. He said arrangements will be made to allow the relatives of the victims to view the sentencing remotely. Mander said the trauma to victims from having to cope with the justice process is a particular concern with the court. Tarrant has been in police custody since last year when he was arrested and accused of using semi-automatic weapons to target Muslims. In France, the court has launched an inquiry into the government's handling of the coronavirus response. This comes only hours after Prime Minister Edouard Philippe resigned amid a cabinet reshuffle. The government has faced criticism over shortages of medical equipment during the pandemic. The investigation also focuses on former Health Minister Agnès Buzyn. Senior prosecutor Francois Smolin said the inquiry will be held by the Law Court of the Republic, which deals with the claims of ministerial misconduct. France has reported nearly 30,000 deaths from COVID-19 and over 202,000 confirmed cases. Now, let's have a look at the weather reports around the globe. Well, that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News. Take care.